All change. The Prime Minister's pledge to revolutionise rail in northern England stalls. The government is accused of betraying the north by scaling back transport plans.
I'm deeply disappointed by today's announcement. The Bradford district has been, in my view, completely shortchanged.
But those at the top say the multi-billion-pound investment is monumental and will get the country moving.
This is a monumental programme for rail investment, for commuters, for passengers.
Also this lunchtime, jailed for life. The man who stabbed 8 people in Birmingham city centre is sent to a high-security hospital. Singer Alexandra Burke speaks to us about the shocking statistics on trolling online. And Will Smith on what it's like to play the father of the most famous sporting sisters in history.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Romilly Weeks.
Good afternoon. It was supposed to be the government's flagship infrastructure project, cutting journey times from Leeds to London and connecting great swathes of the North and Midlands. But in a major reversal, the government has announced it's abandoning much of the eastern leg of HS2 and scaling back new east-west lines too. The government claims the rethought £96 billion scheme is still an ambitious and unparalleled programme that will deliver benefits 10 years sooner than originally planned. But the announcement was greeted with cries of betrayal, as Carl Dinnan reports.
The 758 from Manchester to Leeds was delayed this morning, but the complete new northern powerhouse line between the cities won't be coming at all. The high-speed line between Nottingham and Leeds has also gone. Not that you'd know it listening to the Prime Minister.
We're not only building HS2, so you're building both prongs of the Y, but you're building a crossrail of the north in Northern Powerhouse Rail from Manchester to Leeds, or Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds.
The original HS2 plan connected London to Birmingham before heading west to Manchester and east to Leeds. But a large chunk of the eastern leg has now been cancelled, and the new Northern Powerhouse rail link between Manchester and Leeds has been reduced to a series of upgrades. But the diminished ambition can be delivered more quickly.
Faster journeys, increased capacity, more frequent services, up to 10 years sooner than previously planned.
But Conservative constituencies are amongst those that will lose out.
I'm deeply disappointed by today's announcement. The Bradford district has been, in my view, completely shortchanged.
We were promised we were going to relieve congestion on the East Coast Main Line because we're going to go to Leeds. So where's that promise?
Bradford in particular will miss out, no longer getting a new stop on the Northern Powerhouse line.
But Bradford's been betrayed and the North of England have been betrayed. This was the first test of levelling up, and the government has completely failed and let down everybody in the north, and you can't believe a word the Prime Minister says.
Commuters across northern England already feel let down.
I had hopes that, that might fix the problems, especially getting into work and things like that. But yeah, it's frustrating to hear that those things aren't going to happen.
A lot of the infrastructure hasn't been set up north the same way it has been set down south.
If you're trying to go across country, and certainly between the northern cities, Liverpool here, Sheffield, Leeds, it's not great at all.
A huge amount of money is still going into the railways, but even though the smaller projects will arrive more quickly, they can't come soon enough for northern voters who feel they haven't had a fair share of infrastructure. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.
And I spoke to the Mayor of West Yorkshire, Tracy Brabin, a little earlier. She told me the change of plan is a massive disappointment for her region.
The North, if you really do believe in levelling up, it needs that Northern Powerhouse Rail, it needs NPR, and it also needs HS2 going to Leeds. You'll know that of all the 3 projects that have been announced, we only have one that is coming close to Yorkshire, that's going to Marsden. And the fact that the Prime Minister said that the train stops on the border of Yorkshire feels deeply insulting. So we are standing together, the Labour Party, the mayors across the region, to say this is just not good enough. And actually, it's a betrayal of the promises from not just the Prime Minister, but Rishi Sunak as well, who also committed to Northern Powerhouse Rail.
But the government has clearly looked at the cost of this, and HS2, as we know, has spiralled from 30 billion to 100 billion pounds. And there does come a point where governments have to make a judgment that this isn't delivering enough benefit for what it's costing, doesn't there?
But surely the benefit is in regeneration. It's in about unlocking the potential of the North. And also it is about our commitment to the climate agenda. We saw the Prime Minister at COP26. I was in Glasgow myself. And the commitment to HS2 is not just about speed. It's not just about train times from Leeds to London. It's absolutely about capacity. It's about getting freight off the road and onto the rail network. The fact that HS2 doesn't go from Sheffield to Leeds, 100,000 cars are on the M1 every single day. People who commute from Leeds to Sheffield drive because it takes 45 minutes. This is not unlocking our potential, and it is utterly a letdown from government, and this is definitely not levelling up.
Do you accept, though, that the improvements on what's there now will at least be seen much earlier than the decades-long wait under the original scheme?
Well, look, we have been campaigning and working towards this integrated rail plan for decades. The Transport for the North, they've had plans in place. We're offering government an opportunity to be bold and to have a transport revolution, not just to be tinkering at the edges. And to be honest, Romilly, it just feels like it's crumbs off the table when this was an opportunity to have the full loaf. And the people of Yorkshire, the people I've been speaking to, the people I represent, are disappointed and incredibly angry.
Tracy Brabin, Mayor of West Yorkshire, thanks for joining us. And there's much more on today's rail announcement, including an explainer on how long your journey will take versus what might have been promised on our website. That's at itv.com/news. A man has been sentenced to life in prison for stabbing 8 people in Birmingham city centre last year, killing one of them, Jacob Billington. Zephaniah McLeod will start his sentence at a high-security hospital. Our northern reporter, Sangeeta Lal, was in court this morning, and we can speak to her now. Sangeeta, of course, a difficult day for the family.
It really is, and it was a day they hoped would bring them closure, but it seems to have raised even more questions, and his family have heavily criticised the mental health services that McLeod was well known to. Now, Zephaniah McLeod was a paranoid schizophrenic who in September last year went on what the judge described today as a murderous rampage. He took to the streets of Birmingham, randomly picked his victims and killed one man, 23-year-old Jacob Billington, and injured 7 others. Now, while sentencing, the judge criticised the fact McLeod was well known to mental health services, but the judge said he got lost in the system. And one of the main points that was picked out today was the fact that McLeod in April last year had been released from prison for previous offences, but actually went 5 months unsupervised without any face-to-face contact from mental health teams. And in fact, by the time he did, it was just 3 days before he went on that rampage and killed Jacob. Now, McLeod has been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 21 years. That sentence will start in hospital so he can get treatment for his mental health. If he improves, he'll be referred to prison. If not, he'll remain in a secured hospital. Now, Jacob Billington's parents spoke earlier today. They said that they still have many questions. How could someone so well known to mental health services go unmedicated and unsupervised, able to roam the streets with a deadly weapon? Today, we've gone to the trust responsible for McLeod's mental health care. They say they can't comment on his particular case, but say their thoughts are with Jacob Billington's family.
Sangeeta in Birmingham, thank you. Next, to a potential breakthrough in treating those who are HIV positive. Up to now, they've had to take antiviral drugs on a daily basis, but there could be an alternative, a set of injections that only have to be given every 2 months. Those who are living with the disease say the long-acting treatment is extraordinary. Faye Barker has more.
Jonathan Blake has lived with HIV for nearly 40 years, and that means taking these tablets is part of his daily routine to keep the virus at very low levels. But the news at least some of these pills could be replaced by less frequent injections is exciting.
When I was originally diagnosed, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. You know, just a death sentence. So that was that. But you know, the idea of not every morning having to think, oh gosh, I've got to take my pills, that would be wonderful.
The new treatment is given once every 2 months and consists of 2 injections at the same time. It's already been used in parts of Europe, the United States and Canada, with scientists saying it is highly effective.
The key benefit is offering choice. Treatment for HIV in itself has been one of the big successes of modern medicine. But taking this to the next level and reducing the treatment days from 365 to 6 treatment days a year is a real paradigm shift and a new breakthrough.
The injections were recently given the go-ahead in Scotland and can now also be offered on the NHS in England and Wales, benefiting around 13,000 people in England alone. For those like Jonathan, who was once told his HIV diagnosis was terminal, the medical progression is extraordinary.
Basically, I'd been given 6 months to live. But now, I mean, there is this plethora of effective medication.
Leaps like this in treatment are keeping hopes alive to reach the goal of ending HIV transmission in England by 2030. Faye Barker, ITV News.
We have nothing for you.
Actor Alec Baldwin is facing a second legal suit over the fatal shooting of a staff member on his film Rust. Mamie Mitchell, seen here on the left, was the first person to call the emergency services after the incident. As script supervisor, she says she doesn't believe the lines required him to fire a gun. The actor has previously said he's heartbroken over Helena Hutchins' death. And almost half of women trust the police less since Sarah Everard was murdered by serving police officer Wayne Couzens. A survey by YouGov suggested 3/4 of women said they feel the culture of policing has to change in order to better respond to violence against women and girls. Concerns are growing about the welfare and whereabouts of a missing Chinese tennis player. That's after an email claiming to be from Peng Shuai was released by Chinese state media. Ms. Shuai made allegations of assault earlier this month and hasn't been heard from since. Well, let's get more on this from Martha Fairley, who joins me now. Martha, this message hasn't reassured many people.
No, not at all. And in fact, the Women's Tennis Association Chair Steve Simon says that it has raised his concerns over her safety and whereabouts. The email, which is said to be sent by Peng Shuai to the Women's Tennis Association, was published on the Twitter account of the China Global Television Network Europe, which is China's English language state media broadcaster. And it reads as follows: regarding the recent news released on the official website of the WTA, the content has not been confirmed or verified by myself, and it was released without my consent. The news in that release, including the allegation of sexual assault, is not true. I'm not missing, nor I am unsafe. I've just been resting at home and everything is fine. Thank you again for caring about me. Now, 35-year-old Peng Shuai hasn't been seen or heard of publicly since the 2nd of November when she published these allegations of sexual assault by China's former vice premier. She's one of China's best-known female tennis players, and these pictures here are of her competing in the US Open in 2019. She's also won the doubles title twice at Wimbledon and also at the French Open. And earlier this week, tennis star Naomi Osaka expressed her concern at this apparent disappearance. Now, as I said, the chair of the WTA, Steve Simon, says he's concerned. He says he has a hard time believing she actually wrote the email they received. He says she showed incredible courage in describing an allegation of sexual assault, and despite trying to reach her numerous times, he has not been able to.
Martha, thank you for that. Still to come, actor Will Smith about his latest film and playing father to the most famous family in tennis. But first, trolling celebrities or anyone online might be a relatively new and shocking phenomenon, but it only appears to be on the rise. And new research has given a clue as to why. The Avast Foundation says 1/3 of young adults believe celebrities deserve to be trolled online. Many admitted to jumping on the bandwagon of causing hurt to others. The research found that almost 2/3 of 16 to 24-year-olds in the UK have engaged in offensive behaviour online, with more than 1 in 4 acknowledging that others have been upset by their actions. And more than half of those surveyed said they believe groups such as politicians, celebrities and reality TV stars sign up to be trolled. Well, joining me now to discuss this is singer and actress Alexandra Burke, who has first-hand experience of how unpleasant being trolled is. Alexandra, thanks so much for joining us. And when we say you've got first-hand experience of being trolled, you really have had to deal with horrible abuse over a long period of time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I have dealt with online trolling for a very long time, and it's really difficult to put it into words how it makes me feel, because it's gone from racial abuse down to death threats, and you know, it's just quite hard to understand why people would put others through that, why people feel it's acceptable. But I'm just really delighted to be supporting the Avas Foundation's Building a Troll-Free Future campaign, because I do feel like it needs to be talked about, and these conversations have to happen in order to create change.
Absolutely. And have you got...
It's hard to deal with it, actually, because you know, these platforms, they're there for you to interact with your supporters, your fans, etc. And it's wonderful to have these platforms, but at the same time, you could read so many things that are positive, and then that one negative thing could ruin your whole day. And I don't think that these, you know, people that do troll, I don't think they understand the impact it has on mental health. The way that I deal with it, you know, I'm lucky enough to have thick skin and be strong, but I'm not like that all the time. I cannot sit here and say that I've been okay with it all. I do have a wonderful family and friends and a support team here, you know, with those I work with that help and guide me through it all. But at the same time, feelings is always going to be there, and I'm always going to remember what's been said or what I've read, and it's quite hard to handle. I never fight fire with fire. I always kill with kindness. It's what my mum's always taught me to do, and that's the way that I kind of get through it.
Good advice. I'm really horrified by this research that says such a large percentage, a third of young people, think celebrities somehow deserve it, and so many have been actually involved in it. What do you think can be done to counter that?
I just feel like this is the start. You know, the Avas Foundation have started this campaign. We are, you know, starting the conversation. The fact that they are actually funding 2 PhD students at the Oxford University, I think that's incredible, because they're going to dig into the psychological part of it all, and then hopefully we'll get some answers. But at the same time, it's like we need to dig into the fact that why are they doing this? Why does it start? Why do these trolls feel that they need to send such negative comments? And we have to come together. If you've got a platform, talk about it, raise awareness about it, and make sure that we are doing the right thing to help the next generation and the generations after that.
Alexandra, it's been really interesting talking to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
People who steal dogs could be jailed for up to 5 years under new plans to make dog napping a specific offence. Pet theft is currently treated as a loss of property to the owner, but the change will take into account the emotional distress. It follows a rise in pet thefts during the pandemic. Apple customers will soon be able to repair their own devices if they break. The tech giant is going to start selling spare parts for some phones and laptops directly to users for the first time. The company says it wants to give people more options. And the Duchess of Sussex has described how happy she and Prince Harry are living in California. Meghan was talking to her friend and neighbour Ellen DeGeneres for her TV chat show. The interview, due to air in full later today, comes 8 months after her sit-down with Oprah Winfrey. From royalty to sporting royalty, with 30 Grand Slam singles titles between them, they are by some margin the most famous sisters in sport. Now, a new film has been released about the Williams sisters' rise to the top of tennis. King Richard follows the childhood days of Venus and Serena and how their father, Richard Williams, guided them to stardom. He's played by Will Smith, who's been speaking about what the role meant to him. Chloe Keedy has the story.
I got these 2 great tennis players. All we need is a club.
This is the story of 2 young sisters with enormous talent.
Raise your hand, Serena. Venus Williams.
Tennis takes expert instruction. It takes families with unlimited financial resources.
The story of a family which had neither of those things, and their dad Richard's determination to turn his daughters into sporting superstars.
Venus and Serena gonna shake up this world.
The cast of King Richard went to Wimbledon last night ahead of the film's London premiere. It was in part a pilgrimage, but also a chance to meet some of the club's younger players.
Guys gonna carry on playing tennis after the film.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, so happy. Yeah. Like, as a black female, seeing them come from so low to so high is just inspiring, and now after watching that film it's making me want to try harder.
Will Smith had no trouble getting back into character, one he spent 6 months preparing for, mastering the accent and, to a lesser extent, the sport.
As Richard Williams would say, Wimbledon. We in Wimbledon. And it's funny, I was on set, and, you know, I was bending it a little bit more back to the D, and Venus said, no. She said, Daddy calls it Wimbledon. Fortunately, he didn't have to play the tennis. He was teaching and instructing.
Are you any good, though?
Oh, no, I'm horrific.
One person who does know a thing or two about tennis is Isha Price, Serena and Venus's sister and an executive producer on the film.
It's a responsibility. You know, I felt like I had to really represent my family. It was important that we be honest and fair and true. And in order to do that, you had to also tell some stuff that was difficult.
But Isha says her sisters have given it the thumbs up.
Make some dangerous noises. There you go, that's your dangerous face.
King Richard is out in cinemas tomorrow. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
Just before we go, we haven't fully sated your showbiz appetite, then look no further. Last week, we brought you a sneak peek of Lady Gaga's new film, House of Gucci, after its premiere. Well, now the singer, actress and all-round superstar has sat down with our very own arts editor, Nina Nanar, to tell us more.
What was challenging was feeling the real-life symptoms of being Patrizia all the time and what she went through. A woman living in a man's world, and a woman that, you know, you saw the film and you watched it, you know, she's very much an outsider.
And you can hear that interview in full on the ITV Unscripted podcast. And that is it this lunchtime. Mary will be here with the evening news at 6:30. The news where you are follows the national weather.